Welcome to another episode of the Unleash Your Radiance podcast. Today, I am joined by an incredible special guest, a dear friend of mine as well, Rachel, who is a feminine and embodiment relationship coach. And she is going to be joining us for an incredible guest expert session inside of my new group program, Elevation. Rachel, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. So good to be here.
Amazing. Rachel, do you want to briefly introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us exactly what it is you do and the incredible work you do in the feminine embodiment space and relationship coaching?
Yes. So a lot of what I do is looking at healing attachment wounds, which are often developed in early childhood, which really stop us from embodying and getting into that really healthy and safe relationship that we desire. It may block us from healthy love. We may avoid that. We may get really anxious in relationships. And so I'm really focused around supporting people to heal that so that they can really feel safe, seen, valued, and loved in their relationships. And part of that is also looking at helping women in particular to heal some of their wounding, which really stops them from embodying their feminine energy. And so when they embody that feminine energy, you get that polarity, that spark, that, I guess, the king-queen dynamic in your relationship, which is what we really all desire.
Amazing. I love that so much. I know we'll be diving into so much more of that as well. Thank you for that beautiful intro. And I always start, I love to ask a question as well for the guests who join on. What does radiant living mean to you?
Radiant living. I think for me, I feel the most radiant when I have deep inner peace.
Yeah.
Deep inner peace is like, what I strive for, which is different to feeling safe, because safety sometimes stops us from getting outside our comfort zone. So it's not like this deep feeling of safety. I'm going to constantly be safe, but it's this inner peace that I'm at complete peace with who I am, with where I am inside. All parts of me are at peace and integrated and loved and respected, which allows me to really shine fully and be magnetic as well. So I think for me, it's definitely around like deep peace.
I love that answer so much. And I think that's really what I talk about a lot inside of my coaching and elevation as well. It's about creating that inner radiance. And we talk about inner radiance, inner peace is part of that, right? It's about feeling happy with who you are and content with the life you're creating, regardless of where you are at this moment and where you want to be. It's like accepting it and evolving throughout that whole journey. And I think that's so important because a big part of what I talk about as well is like, and I know we spoke about this the other day as well, it's like you can't manifest a life that you desire if you haven't fully healed from the one you're living at the moment, or if you haven't really healed from your past. And we're always healing, but it's about doing that deep inner work as well to start experiencing that inner radiance in order to be able to manifest a life you love. So I absolutely love that. What would you like describe is like a sign that you're really feeling inner peace, or like what are some practices that you do to really help create inner peace?
I think for me, inner peace, I know when I'm feeling that, when my nervous system is feeling regulated. So I'm not feeling overly stressed. My heart's not racing frantically. I'm not being as triggered and reactive as much. It's more of this state of calmness. And I know I'm in this true sense of peace when I can be still and do nothing and be completely calm and happy in that state. I think we're so quick to like quickly try and do things and do more and be more and do better to prove or validate that you're enough. That peace is like, I don't have to do anything. I can just sit on my ass because I know I'm enough and I know like I'm so worthy of this and I don't have any guilt doing that.
That's
That for me is
incredible.
a sign.
That's incredible because I know so many people, especially like a lot of the listeners and the people that come into my world are like high achieving, ambitious women who are like stuck in that mode of like trying to feel like we always need to be doing more. But it's about like, being and like feeling like you can hustle less as well. So that is so powerful because I know I definitely struggle with that. I'm constantly like, as a generator myself, I'm like, what can I do next? So sometimes just sitting and relaxing is quite difficult. But I think that is such a great example of like inner peace is just being able to lounge. You love to lounge as well.
Lounge queen.
Yeah, lounge queen and enjoy that as well. Amazing. And I'd love to know, like diving into that, like the feminine and embodiment work and the relationship coaching, how did you get involved in that? Like, what was the beginning of your journey to really kind of start along this path of from where you were to getting into this line of work?
Oh gosh. I think for me, it was definitely pushed forward a lot through since COVID. I think COVID gave us all a chance to be still without any distractions. And then you really got to understand, oh God, what is this mess inside of me? Like, I didn't like, because you're so disconnected when you're constantly going out to see friends and going out to bars or going to do X, Y, Z. Like, you're constantly got these distractions which stop you from looking inside of you. So I think for me, that time really allowed me to look inside myself and realize, holy shit, like there's so much in here and I don't even know where to start. So I
Mm.
started doing quite a lot of like somatic work, which is like body work, which I use a lot in my coaching sessions with clients. So breath work that really like helped me at the start to get through some of those layers, some of the wounding, some of the trauma, removing some of that from my system. But then I was lucky enough to join a program that Monica Yates was doing called Queen Alchemy. Love it. Definitely recommend. And yeah, that was life-changing. And during that, I remember thinking, this is what I need to do because it changed me so much. And I just wanted to give that to others. So I then did a certification with her. And I think during that certification, even learning things, you're still unfolding and getting to know yourself more and peeling off those layers. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, but I would say it really started escalating since COVID when I really was forced to stop and look within.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that as well. I think so many people went through that as well because we're constantly living in this world of like, hustle, hustle, hustle. It was like get up, go to work, come home, people with kids, and like just this constant busyness and feeling pressure to be constantly achieving more and doing more that we don't have time to think or realize what's actually going on inside. And we don't pick up on those subtle signs or noise of our intuition picking up like, hey, this is out of alignment. Hey, something's wrong. Hey, this needs attention, until what I like to call the cosmic 2x4 comes and smacks you upside the head, right? Until you have like, maybe it's like a rock bottom or, something really, really significant happens. You might lose your job or a relationship might end, or I don't know, maybe you injure yourself, but it's like something causing you to like slow down. It's the universe saying, you need to look at this. So I totally hear you on that. And I went through quite a similar journey myself during COVID as well. It was like a lot of the things that were sort of bottled down is like kind of coming up. And it's like, ooh, all these things to look at and to start doing the inner work around. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that as well. And what was it about like the feminine work, like the feminine energetics and the embodiment that really caught your eye and that brought you kind of into that working in that area?
Yeah, I didn't know too much about feminine masculine. I dabbled a little in like different tantra practices that really helped to like teach me that. I didn't even know there was a feminine masculine, to be honest, until I started dabbling in that. For me, and what I learned about myself in doing the group program that Monica Yates did before I did my coaching certification, I realized that I was living my life in this masculine energy, that I had this masculine shell around me that was there to protect me, that I put up as a child. And it was amazing. It helped me get through different scenarios, but it was still there as an adult and it was there as a wall. It was a guard. It was protecting me, but it was also meaning I couldn't be in a happy relationship. I was blocking that. I was constantly like pushing, wanting to do more, wanting to be perfect, wanting to be the best, fear of not being good enough and seen as like a failure. Like all these things were sitting in this shell the wall I put up around me. So I think for me, doing that feminine work help me uncover that and pull down that wall, and to be able to like now have a relationship where I'm happy, to now do work that I love, to now trust myself, because I never did before. I had to control everything. Now I feel like there's a level of trust where I can flow. So that really made me, yeah, it just got me on board that doing this work results in amazing things in my life. I wouldn't have what I have now if I hadn't done that work.
Oh, I love that so much. And like, first off, Monica Yates, I absolutely love her. I came across her back in like around the pandemic times as well, like the beginning of COVID. And I was like, this woman is incredible. She is feisty, she is spicy, she's showing up. And that's sort of where I learned about what feminine and masculine energetics and feminine embodiment was as well. And I think, you know, you see such incredible results coming from it, and hearing stories about people who've had incredible results of embodying more of their feminine as well. And I know myself, I've dived into this work as well. I've joined a mastermind before that was around like feminine embodiment in business and life as well. But like, I think one of the biggest fears that I had around it, because I'm very similar to you, and I do struggle because I am more dominant in my masculine, like that generator, hustler, go, 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 which there are seasons and times for that, but like leaning back into that trust, into that flow and surrender. I think I found a really hard time understanding, like, how does doing less allow you to receive more? Like, and how do you kind of lean back and trust and soften when, you know, we are so programmed and conditioned with society to really be the go-getter. You need to be like that boss babe era, right? We've seen such a shift with that boss babe era versus like the soft girl era, where you can swing from one side of the pendulum so far to the opposite, and then it's like you're in chaos versus like then you're in that hustler. So it's like, I know, like I was saying myself, I had a lot of fear around sort of understanding and like leaning into that, where I have now, and it's been incredible. Still need to do some work on it. I catch myself sometimes really swinging into the masculine, but like, what was for you? Like, how did you find that as well? And like, how did you navigate that?
Yeah, for me, like it's all about balance, and that
Yeah.
balance looks different for everyone. We have both these energies in us, and it's not about rejecting one. If you reject your masculine, then you're going to be sat in your wounded feminine. You
Mhm.
can't be in your healthy feminine if you reject your masculine. That's a reality. So we need both of these within us, and it's about balance and what that balance is for you. That balance for you may be more doing more, but it's how it feels in your body, because that's going to feel so different to how it feels in my body and how it feels in someone else's body. So it's always about what is that balance for you, and noticing within yourself when you feel like you're pushing too much. I know when I am too much in my masculine, I get a tension headache up here.
Mm.
My energy, it feels like I've been hit by a train when I wake up.
Okay.
Like it's these little telltale signs that you
Yeah.
notice. I get irritable and like short with people. Like I just cannot handle people. It's these little signs that I like, you just start to notice. You're like, oh, I need to pull back because I'm doing too much. And I've just recently moved, and I've noticed like at different times those like tension headaches and different things. I'm like, oh, I've like pushed myself too much trying to move and work and do different things all at the same time. So it's just noticing those subtle signs, because those signs may be you may not get them. You may still be able to do so much more before you get different subtle signs, but it's just noticing what they are. And when they do come up, that's your sign to pull back. It's like the wisdom of the body. The body knows everything. It's like how you tune into that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I definitely have felt that. Like, once you start to understand like the different signs, or, you know, when burnout might be approaching, or how to balance that. Like, I definitely find myself too. I get irritable. I feel like I get like just disconnected from myself. I feel like I'm just in this mode. I feel really disconnected from my spiritual side more, letting things flow, feeling like really magnetic, and things are just feeling like kind of forced and like and then it causes almost like resentment, doesn't it? Because especially
Yeah.
like you feel like you have to do things, or if you don't want to do them, you still feel like you need to. And there's this like voice inside that's like, but you have to get this done. You have to get this done. Where it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it's so easy to fall back in those old patterns, but it's like tuning back into, you know, letting more of that feminine show up, which I love to kind of, if I've had a long day and then I want to get back into that, I love doing like a dance, or, you know, just a bit
Yes.
of somatic work as well, or even just having a shower, coming home, having a shower, and then if I need to do anything later in the evening, maybe there's a little bit more work I have to do. I feel like that just creates more of that space, lighting a candle, and like
Yes.
just putting on. One thing I noticed I did that was a huge upgrade was buying sexy pajamas, like buying silk and
Ooh.
see-through and really lacy, awesome pajamas. And
I
because,
love that.
yeah, because before, like, no one should have seen what my pajamas look like. It was like super embarrassing. Like, they're definitely in the donation bin now, but like, just switching that up, I found I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I feel really good. I feel good in my own skin. And that really helped to like
Yes.
create that, or putting on dresses and just doing your hair and makeup and lipstick every once
Yeah.
in a while.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing, like the feminine is all about the senses. So
Yeah.
like you having that beautiful material on your skin that helps you get in your body and feel pleasure in that. Like you watch, like seeing yourself in the mirror with lipstick and you're like, oh, that is so beautiful. And you just feel like amazing. It's all about like the candle, the smell of that sat
Yeah.
there like burning, and you're like, oh, that smells incredible. The water, the sensation of that like drizzling down your skin, like all of that. It's about how we connect back to our senses in whatever way you do it. Moving, that's like you feel your body flow. All those
Yeah.
little things are like amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it so much. And like one thing as well is like environment. I find environment is like
Mm,
so powerful and so important for like that feminine energy to kind of flow more. Because if it feels like chaotic and unclean and all over the place, like you just I find I feel like I contract and I just feel stiff and like
yeah.
all over the place. But if it's like flowy and like I said, nice candles on, nice scents in the room, I just feel like I can lean in more and just like really get into that space a lot more.
Yes. No, I'm 100% the same. Where we moved into this flat, there's two um office spaces, and I went into one and I was like, instantly I was like, nope, energy is not, this is not for me. I can't work here. The energy, like it was just like I felt it in my body. I'm like, no, I can't. And it's that feeling that you just feel. And us as women, that we're so connected to our body. Like
Yeah.
the feminine is the body, the masculine is the mind. And we're so connected to our body, we just know what's right or wrong. And you could feel it in your body, like you said, when you contract. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, no, this isn't good. Something needs to shift.
Exactly. And I think it's so important to have that awareness and like connecting with, like you said, your senses and your energy and your intuition as well to really help guide you. Like in manifestation, I always talk a lot about the feminine is that inspired action. So it's like leaving space for clarity to come through and being more playful and, enjoying and being more in that being. So that allows for like your intuition to guide and those downloads from, your guide source, whatever you want to call it. And then the masculine is like, okay, you've got that inspired idea, the action. Now it's like, let's take action and birth it into reality, right? Because if you just stay in the inspiration download that comes through, it's like that's that dreamer state. Nothing's really happening, right? But then it's like you're taking that aligned, supported structure action to help bring it into reality as well. And that's like the power of manifestation when it comes to the energetics as well.
And like the perfect balance of the masculine and feminine. Like that is
Exactly.
what, when I'm talking about balance, like that is it. You need both.
Exactly. Because if you're just doing like, for instance, you're heavy in the masculine and you're just like taking all this action, like when it comes to like business, for example, if you're just like, I have to do this, I have to do this, and you're like burning the midnight oil and putting all your energy in all different directions, you're in that hustler mode, and that's going to lead to like insane burnout, resentment, and just, probably not wanting to continue on with your business at some point. But if you're too in the feminine, you're in that like idea, that dreamer state, and you're just too floaty and you're all around. And that's kind of like that pendulum swinging from one side to the other, right? So it's finding that balance of where it is you need to be. And I think it's like also so important. It's like there's no one, like how we are talking about, there's no like right or wrong, because there are times for that more masculine. Like yes, it might need to be like in the early, I'll use business as an example again, but in the early stages, there is more time for hustle because you're getting it off the ground. There's more work to do. But there are times where maybe you can lean back more, and then there'll be seasons in a launch where you need to be a little bit more in the masculine. But then when you're in the launch, you can lean back and let the feminine, lead the way as well. So it's really
Yeah,
about finding that balance, I think.
absolutely.
Yeah. I'd love to know, like someone who is like really heavy in their masculine, they have that like wounded masculine, like we are talking about, and they have no idea like where to start. And they're like, okay, I'm hearing about feminine embodiment, feminine this for the very first time. Where would they start? Like, what would be a good starting place for them?
I always start with clients with healing that wound,
Yeah.
because you can like dance, put on lipstick, do whatever you want, but nothing, that's going to do nothing if you've not healed the wound that's like that you have towards the masculine. You always start with healing the masculine, and then we embody the feminine,
Yeah.
because otherwise you got to get to that root cause. So I'm just thinking, what would you do out of a session? I'd really like encourage people to journal.
And see what's kind of coming up for them around like
Yeah.
that specific wound.
And I would maybe say, when was the first time you've not felt safe around a man?
Yeah,
Journal on how you feel, how you felt growing up around your father or around the male caregiver in your house.
that is a very powerful, powerful question that I know can really show
Mm,
up in a lot of dating patterns for women especially.
yeah.
Or if they've had like father wounds or things that they need to heal as well.
And also looking back at like past relationships, if you're heterosexual with a man, how at the end of that relationship, how did your thoughts, beliefs, views of men shift?
Mm,
You
yeah.
often leave like relationships, if you're being hurt, you can leave being like, oh, all men are dicks.
Yeah, or all the good ones
What
in
does that?
between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't trust them, got to look after myself. They're all out for themselves. And what does that, how does that impact your connection with your own masculine energy? If all men are dicks, are you then rejecting your own masculine energy? Or are
That's
you putting up walls around yourself and embodying too much of your masculine energy to protect yourself from others? It's
yeah.
always looking at some of those wounds to understand and unpick and release that. Because the minute you identify what that root cause is, or the belief that you hold around the masculine, you then release that within you, because you're holding that same belief about your own inner masculine.
That's so true. And that's so powerful because it's definitely going to like reflect back to us in the type of partners that we're attracting in or the past relationships that it's like that same thing's going to keep showing up, right? Like they always talk about, and I talk about this often as well. Like if you haven't healed a belief, for instance, around something, you're going to attract in that same thing over and over again. So in a relationship, it'll be like that same maybe emotionally unavailable partner, for instance, but it's like the same version of that, but in a different person. And then it's until you learn that lesson or what needs to be healed. So I can see how that really, really ties in together as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But even like outside of relationships, because it's your relationship with your own inner masculine.
Yeah. So how would
And
that really
that's
show up like in an outside of your relationship as well?
so, like, for example, say you've rejected your own masculine.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you're sitting in more of a wounded feminine place. So maybe you hold your tongue and don't speak your truth. Maybe you're a people pleaser and like do everything for other people, but don't respect your own needs. Maybe, like you said, you're off with the fairies and all about the lounge life and don't do anything and get anything done. There's no structure to your day.
Yeah.
Maybe you're super like codependent on somebody, or you're sitting there waiting for someone to save you. You've got that like
Mm.
little girl energy.
That is a big one. I think a lot of people, or a lot of women tend to struggle with as well. I think the codependency for sure.
Mm.
I know myself, for example, in the past, I've had this like huge wall up, for instance, like again, it's like I'm Miss Independent. I don't need a man to come and save me. But then when I would actually finally surrender to like liking this man that I was dating, even though it was the emotionally unavailable type coming in, I would then like fully surrender and then I'd be more in that like attachment style. So it'd be from like completely being avoidant to like then being in like full attachment. And then I've had to do a lot of work around that, around like inner healing to find that balance as well. But I found that was like so interesting because I was like, why is there such an avoidance to it? And be like, I don't need a man, I'm independent. But then as soon as it would come in, it's like, okay, it's all or nothing, you know? And then
Yeah.
it's like, it was really finding that as well. But I think the people pleasing as well, recovering people pleaser, like confession fully.
Yeah. Me
And
too.
yeah, I think so many of us are. And it's easy to fall back into those patterns sometimes, but it's like catching yourself as well. But yeah, I know definitely the like speaking your truth and people pleasing and feeling like, you know, being too seen or too heard can really, really show up for so many women. And that's I can really see how that's tied to needing to heal the masculine as well and allowing space for the feminine to be more seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what would be something like, so once say they've like identified that wound and started working through that, what would be sort of like next steps to kind of continue on that journey?
So I would say once you've worked through that wound and started to heal, like accept that masculine energy of
Yeah.
yours, the next step I would take a client through is feminine embodiment. So that is like, okay, how do we bring that feminine in now? Now you've got your strong masculine like structure. Like the masculine is a cup and the feminine is the water. So you've got your cup solid now. Now let's like work with this water. And so it can be simple. As I said with one of my clients, I've said, I'll create a morning routine. I want you to choose 3 things. And those 3 things are are quite feminine activities. So it's not like I'm going to go do weights and like run around the track and do all these things. It's like something. So for her, it was just sitting outside and like having a cup of tea or like doing a slow yoga practice. So it's these different things that you can incorporate into your day to connect you back into the slowness, the being, the flow.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. I know, for instance, this past summer, I started doing a lot more like embodiment dancing in the morning. My morning routine, I was in Tenerife. The sun was coming up. It was really sunny. It was so beautiful. And I started using like Shakti playlists. And it
Oh,
was just like, yeah, like really dancing and like really getting into it. And I felt my like connection to myself totally increase. Like it was incredible. And like my connection to spirituality and inspiration, like all kinds of things. But it was just really about just incorporating that dance and like tapping into that like wild woman like aspect and just like flowing and free. And I think it's so important to like come back to those senses. And it's, you know, what's actually what blows my mind so much with this stuff, this is all like basic like stuff
yes.
that feels natural. Like when we do it, it's like it's almost like a remembering. Yet I think we tend to like feel like it needs to be more complicated in order for it to work. How would having a simple cup of tea and sunshine or dancing change my life? But it's like it does. It's like going back to the basics, like breath work, right? Tapping, like all these kinds of things to really help heal and, you know, create this transformation as well.
Yeah, I even use this technique with my partner because he's been so busy like with the move and launching programs and everything. And I'm like, I feel like you need a little bit of feminine, even though he's a man. Like he the same as us, we need the masculine, they also need the feminine. And I think men in particular really struggle to connect with that feminine energy at times. And so we just sat there and had like a cup of cacao together and just like sat there and like connected inwards and drank this cacao. And it was like 15 minutes. And then after that, he was like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing.
I
And
love
he
that.
just like, it just felt so inspired and incredible. So these things work irrespective of whether you're a man or a woman, but it does. It's so simple, but it gives you that moment to connect inwards and stop and slow down because that's where the insights happen.
Yes, it's so true. Because when we're just rushing at like 100 miles an hour, it's really like sometimes, like I said, there's a time and space where it can be productive, but like there's so much that we're missing, right? Our intuition is always speaking to us, but if we're constantly going, then we're not hearing those incredible downloads and guidance that is trying to speak to us.
Yeah, and it's just like, how do you? I always like, I hate giving too much like homework or things to do or adding to the list of the clients that I coach because as women, I'm like trying to let's take things off. So whatever I give, it's like, how do we integrate and incorporate this into your daily routine? Like,
Yeah.
it's not a giant like, oh, I've got to do this, and I've got to do an hour yoga class and then this, because that's just going to push you more into that masculine energy and cause you more stress, and it's counterproductive. So it's those tiny little things that you can integrate into your everyday life because you don't want to overwhelm yourself because then you're definitely not going to be in your feminine energy. I'll tell you that much. So it's like just these little nuggets.
I think that's so powerful because I know myself, I catch myself often with this because I'm like a lover of like wanting to absorb all of the information and like trying all the things and signing up for shiny object syndrome, guilty, signing up for all the things as well. And then, you know, I've had to catch myself because then I've got too much on. I'm putting my attention in all these different places. But, you know, I heard this saying the other day, and I think it's so powerful. It's like information is not transformation. It's the integration, right? That is. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
it's
yes,
great to have that
yes.
information, but like if you don't do anything with it, it's not going to cause the integration. So if you're so busy and like pulling in all these different directions, you might feel like you're getting a lot done, but that's more like being busy for busy's sake, and you're not actually getting the full transformation experience. And then what happens is you're like, well, that didn't work, you know, or people are like, that's work,
Yeah.
I'm going to give up now. But it's really about that consistency and like I like what you said, like stripping away and bringing in like what's actually going to really create that transformation, and how can we do this in a place of like not overdoing it and overwhelming.
Yeah. And I always say like the difference between intellect or knowledge, which is like, I read a book and now I understand these concepts,
Yeah.
versus embodiment, which is like, like, there's still an education element to this, but now like I embody this concept. I don't just know what the feminine is and I can just list things off. I live this, I breathe this. This is a part of me. This is a part of
Yeah.
me. I live this in my body. And I think it's that difference.
It
Because there's a
totally,
different, you can sense with some people like who will just like educate and like tell you and teach you different things, but you feel there's like an inauthenticity there, or there's something about it and you're like, oh, I don't know what that is. And it's most of the time it's probably because they've understood it mentally, intellectually, but the embodiment isn't fully there. And you're
so
like, oh, that's the energy you're picking up on, because it's spoken at an intellectual level rather than at, oh my gosh, okay, this is what it feels like. This is what it is to live this way.
it's so true. Like you really, we pick up on people's energy so much, even through like the screen, for instance. Now, like if someone's showing up and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to do this today, and how are you? And like their energy is all over the place and chaotic. You're gonna feel that, and that's like that anxious, more like masculine energy. But if you're more like feeling like laid back and like, I pick up when I meet someone who's really in their feminine energy, and I know you are, for instance, too. It's like I feel calm being around that person. Like it picks up on. It's just like, it's like a breath of fresh air, it's like flowy, it's nice, and you could feel the embodiment behind it, where I totally feel that like some people, it's like you can pick up on that sense of where it doesn't feel authentic, and like that's that like authority as well. It's like that embodiment, like you are that living, breathing proof of what it is you're really trying to speak about and teach about as well. It's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Amazing. What was I going to ask you now? Oh, I wanted to ask you, when in relationship. So I'd really love to talk about, like, I know you're in an incredible relationship as well now, and your partner is very much into like the men's work as well. I'd love to like kind of, when someone is really embodied in that feminine embodiment and their partner is in a healthy masculine, how does that, like from your experience as well, really show up in relationship compared to like some past relationship examples you have? Like what would be
Yeah.
some examples you could really break down of like what's not a healthy example, and like how do you know when that's like showing up and really expressing in relationship as well?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I've had so many unhealthy examples.
Me too.
But
Feel free.
also it's
Yeah.
all like I take full accountability, because I was in a wounded, like feminine slash wounded masculine, and it like I was operating from a wounded place myself. So
Yeah.
I had an avoidant attachment style. So I would either want short-term situations and not a big relationship, or I would go after emotionally unavailable men, or unavailable men in general, because I knew that wouldn't last, because I didn't want anything to last, because that was a fear I had. So for me, that dynamic was definitely not the king and queen energy that you're really desiring. That was me attaching my worth to these unavailable men, and me feeling like not good enough, or me having to be perfect, look perfect, do XYZ to get their love and validation,
Yeah.
instead of having that love and validation within myself, not looking externally for it. It had to start within. And
Yeah.
so once I did that inner work on myself and healed some of those beliefs that I had, that attachment wounding kind of shifted a bit as well. And then I met Andy, and we still like, our attachments at the start clashed. We had an anxious avoidant dance going on, which is never nice. He wanted that attention. I was like, whoa. And then I'll give some attention, and then he'll get excited. I'll be like, whoa. And it was like that go, stop, go, stop. It was like that clashing of our attachment styles.
Yeah.
And like, it was a lot of work we had to do. Like, it wasn't always easy at all. Half the time it was a hot mess. But it's like, it's working through that. And when we work through that, we've like, okay, well, how do I create safety in intimacy, in closeness,
Yeah. That's so
not just physical, but intimacy in general? And for him, it's like, how do you create safety in distance?
mm, Yeah, I can resonate with that as someone who was like anxious attachment before as well. It's like, how can you sit in that silence or that unknown when they're not in your proximity, or you're not constantly talking without thinking like, is something wrong? Is something, like I think that mind can start to wander as well. Where that dance I think is so common in so many relationships with
Yeah.
anxious attachment. And
But I see it as a gift. Like
yeah,
it's there to help you move through it if you
yeah,
choose. If you choose to do the work and not just go with your regular patterns, it can be the most healing gift. But yeah, and then so for me in relationships at the start, even with Andy, I could not speak my truth. I just kept everything bottled up inside. I was really scared of being vulnerable, really scared of being like too open. I was scared of the reaction if I did share my truth. I was just all focused on them and like people pleaser, like let's meet their needs and ignoring my own. I didn't even know what my needs were. I was so disconnected from that. And so doing that work on myself, and that's the thing with relationships, you've got to do your own individual work. I was then able to learn how to speak my truth. And now I have no problem putting up a boundary. If anything, Andy is just like, gosh, you are the queen of boundaries. He's like, oh, when I met you, you never spoken. Now you don't stop.
I love that so much. Boundaries are like so necessary and so needed in like all
Yes.
relationships and areas of life. And I think a lot of like people on both sides of a relationship, but women as well, if we are in that place of like not feeling safe to speak our truth, or like focused on, that people pleasing, like we want to make sure they feel safe so they'll stay and this relationship will work out. It's like we can fall into that pattern of like literally losing ourselves, right? And not
Yeah.
putting ourselves first and worrying so much about, is the other person into me? Are they liking me? Am I keeping them happy? Versus like, are you happy? Are you keeping yourself
Yes.
happy so you can show up as your best self in that relationship as well? Um, but it's like they say, right? Relationships are like literally a mirror reflecting back to you all the insecurities and areas that you need to work on yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
Literally, before I got into this relationship, I'd done quite a bit of work and I was like, oh, I'm healed. What a joke. I was like, I have healed myself. I am whole. Oh my gosh. I was got a big slap in the face when I entered a relationship, because you think you've done all the work and you're like, okay, I've got this under control. The minute you get into the relationship, everything comes to the surface. Everything.
Yeah, I totally can feel that. Anytime I've like dated someone new, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going into this, all healed, I'm this fresh new woman. And then it's like one thing comes up, it's like, oh, there's that wound coming
Yeah.
up again. But that's like the important part of this work, right? Because it's like some of these beliefs still pop up different, like new level, new devil. But it's like once you have that awareness and you're like, okay, I've been here before. I know this wound, I know it well, it's coming up again. But like now you can be like, I see you, you're not true. Like, let's work to reframe
Mhm.
this, right? Whereas if you haven't done the work, that's just going to keep repeating and repeating and repeating, and you're not going to have awareness around why that's popping up, right? So it's so important to
Yeah.
like have that awareness, and it's not going to be as like, I find each time maybe something does pop up, it's like, okay, it's not as strong, it's like, or you're not as triggered as much. And it's like, I think that's that constant journey of still doing that work. We're always on a healing journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. Rachel, do you want to talk a little bit about, you're coming in to do a expert session inside of Elevation, which I'm so excited about. I cannot wait for this
Me
session
too.
because I think it's going to so beautifully like just go deeper into the feminine and masculine, like in line with manifestation, with business, with really co-creating this incredible life that these women are joining who are looking to create. And this really overflows, like this whole program is designed to overflow into all areas of life, so you can really be showing up in that space to achieve the life that you truly desire. So I'd love to know, like, what can the women who are going to be joining Elevation and being a part of your incredible session, what can they expect to learn from you?
Ooh. No. A lot. So I work a lot with the subconscious. I work a lot with the body. So we'll be doing a lot of different processes to help peel some of those woundings, particularly around the masculine, so that the women can feel more comfortable being in that flow, surrendering, being open, receiving. That's so hard for women to do.
Oh
Receive,
my
receive,
gosh. Yes,
receive.
I totally agree.
Receive your manifestation.
Yes,
Receive love.
receive love, your manifestation, wealth, abundance, receive it all. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll be looking really at that looking at some of those masculine wounds to think, okay, let's unpick these. Let's look at healing these at a body nervous system level so that they don't trigger you, they don't show up as much. All these wounds, all these beliefs, all these experiences, past traumas, wherever it is on the spectrum, whether it's major trauma or minor trauma, wherever that lives, it all lives in the body. Everything lives in the body. Can't intellect yourself and think your way out of it and be like, oh, I decide to be my feminine. You just can't do it. It all is in the body. So what I'll be doing is running through a process to really remove some of that charge from the body so it's not being triggered. So you're not feeling like, oh gosh, I need to like control this. I need to get everything under control or else everything will go wrong. I'll fail, or I need to be perfect in this. I need to keep going. I need to keep going or else nothing will happen. All of those beliefs are from an unhealed masculine wound. So it's like, okay, let's run through a process to heal that.
Oh, I love that. I'm so excited for this. And I believe your session is in our embodiment week as well, which is going to be absolutely incredible.
Perfect.
Yeah, I believe it's that week because either the energetics or the embodiment. I'll have to double check, but it's going to be fitting into either one. So incredible. Amazing. Well, Rachel, do you have anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Yes, I just want to say thank you, Laurie, for having me. And I'm so, so excited for Elevation. I'm excited to share this learning. And I also, if you are based in Edinburgh, I do often run different events. I'm trained in inner dance and breathwork and other modalities, which I often incorporate into workshops. So do keep an eye out on the IG if you are in Edinburgh and interested in joining anything.
Amazing. And guys, yeah, if you're listening, I have attended one of Rachel's inner dance sessions. I had no idea what inner dance was. Actually, Rachel, do you want to do a brief? I know it's so hard to actually explain. Sorry, I'm also losing my voice. You can hear that raspiness. Do you want to explain a little bit about what inner dance is because I was so confused when I first started. I was like, this sounds incredible. Let's go on this journey. But yeah.
Inner dance. It's one of those things that's quite difficult to explain. But so there's two elements to it. So it's lying down. It's a dance of energies within, which is so in line with the feminine energetics and the feminine embodiment of what we're talking about, which is amazing. So you're lying down and there's a specifically designed soundscape, which utilizes the different brainwaves. So it's designed to go up and down the different brainwaves to replicate the circadian rhythm, but kind of smushed up into a shorter period of time. So it takes you on a journey through the different brainwaves. Each brainwave is connected to a chakra. Each brainwave is also connected to an age of your development. So depending on where it is in the soundscape, you may connect to different memories from different periods of your life. You may heal different traumas that arise as well in that. You may connect to different beliefs that have been created at different times in your upbringing. You may connect to the different blockages that you have in your chakra system as well. And it just helps to open and release and witness those. So there's that sound element. And the other part of it is around energy work. So I do energy work on the body during the session. So I can use like instruments like crystal bowls and different shamanic instruments, as well as just touch or even hovering over someone and really all I'm doing is witnessing what is coming up for them. Because once you witness something, it allows it to be released. We spend so much time shoving stuff down. Right? It just keeps it in. The minute you see it and accept it and like own that this was a part of me, it allows it to be free. So
it allows
it's a very, very powerful mix of science and woo, which I love.
I'm all
perfect balance of masculine, feminine.
I totally agree. I love that. Yeah, the spirituality and the science. Like I love mixing the both of them together. Yeah, honestly, your inner dance, it was so amazing to experience as well.
Thank
It was like
you.
going on this incredible journey, but like also feeling like you were on a trip as well. And I could feel when you were coming around, when you and Connie were coming around doing the energy work, like I could feel that presence kind of going over. It was a bit like a Reiki sort of feeling in some ways as well.
Mm.
But yeah, it was an incredible journey. So definitely recommend visiting one of Rachel's
Mm.
in-person events in Edinburgh if any listeners are based in Edinburgh. And Rachel, I will drop Rachel's IG in the show notes as well, so you can connect with her on Instagram. And yeah, we are starting Elevation on the 14th of November, guys. Early bird is still on until the 10th of November, so you can join for just $197 a month on a payment plan. This is going to be the ultimate life transformation and manifestation program for the ambitious woman who knows she is meant for more and ready to call in her desires, let go of all the energetic blocks that were holding her back from 2023, and make 2024 the most incredible fucking year yet. So Rachel, thank you so much. I cannot wait to have you join this incredible program. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
on. And yeah, it was such an absolute pleasure to have you on this show.
Thank you, my dear.